Hello, everybody. It's me, The Worm, and I'm back for Raging Loop. The loop is indeed raging at the moment, and we have just concluded our second feast. Yes, that's right. And we are well and truly underway here. We are now dealing with different tactics and discussion, and we've had our first vote. So let's get a quick recap. Um, Going into this, it looks like we have Kinosuke Nasato, kind of or attempting to take a commanding role here. What with two events have led to that. Konzo has died, and and Kyo has been shown to be innocent by Takumi, the snake. So these two factors have combined in such a way where Kinosuke now feels confident enough to throw his weight around, And so he has advocated for simply a simple voting system where we can, majority rule. Whoever gets the most votes, you're off the island. You're fired. You're, whatever. You're hanged. You're hung. Whichever it is. And, of course, we had a couple of our other villagers kind of throw it back in his face because they sort of were wise to his conniving nature. That he only felt confident to do all this because he was shown to be innocent. But nonetheless, it seemed that most of the villagers were willing to go along with it. Chami was very hesitant, and in part due to that hesitancy, it seems a couple people actually voted for her, including Tai and the old man, I believe. I think those were the two who voted for her, for Chami. Another big moment occurred with the implementation of the monkey strategy. And this was, of course, suggested by Haruaki before the feast, and it was implemented by Chami. And the villagers went along with it. So we now know it is both Mochi and Meiko who are our resident monkeys. And so that gives us quite a bit more information to work with. Two more innocent villagers. Nonetheless, the voting still occurred, and the ultimate result of this voting was the old man has been chosen as the villagers' first target. And it makes sense when you think about it. No one really knows him that well, and he doesn't seem to be all that helpful. So, really, even if he's not a wolf, it's someone who... This was the argument put forth by Yasunaga. Even if he may not be a wolf, his sort of strange, confusing nature and him not explaining why he's, doing what he's doing could only serve to confuse us. And so it may just be beneficial, even if he's technically innocent, to get rid of him. Which is pretty, somewhat... It's kind of cutthroat, but in this situation, it's tough not to... It's hard not to see his point, So I think I mentioned it a couple times, actually. I probably would have come to the same conclusion, made the same calculation there. Of course, Rikako actually voted for Yasunaga, which was an interesting vote, in part because the reason she gave was that if Yasunaga were a wolf, it would be the most damaging person it could be, because he's the most influential, most well-liked, and probably one of the most intelligent. Besides Mochi is intelligent in a way. Yasunaga's kind of intelligent in another way. So losing Yasunaga would be bad, but having him as a wolf would be even worse, you know? So I guess Rikako's just kind of hedging her bet in this way. I think I think that's all the major stuff that went down. Yeah. Okay. So now presumably we're going to go through the hanging, and we might even get to the next day. So we'll see if the wolves are going to go on a counterattack. We'll be able to see what goes on. Hopefully the crow will be able to tell us if the old man was really a wolf or not. Presuming the crow's still alive, you know, that's something to consider, because we've had... I don't think the journalists are a part of the game. I think they died too early. But we've had Yoshitsugu and Kanzo, so either of those people could have been, you know, the crow or something. It'll be bad if one of them was the crow, and then next time, you know, maybe one of the wolves could attempt to say, hey, I'm the crow, and I'm going to say that the old man was a wolf, and so everyone might think that, you know, we're down a wolf, but in reality, we're not. You know, we're gonna just have to see, because what was it? Hang on, let me look at the notes. What the crow does precisely what exactly? I know it says the crow can tell if the one who died was a wolf. But is that everyone who dies, or just the people who die in the hanging? Because if it's everyone, you'd assume they'd be able to tell us if Kanzo or... Well, presumably it wasn't Kanzo, because he was killed by a wolf. But Yoshitsugu... I don't know. I need to see the crow in action. Let's get back to it. We're back in Haruaki vision, which is very comforting, because Haruaki is just he's smart. He's thinking a few steps ahead of me, I'm sure. So I'll be glad to get his opinion on what's been going on. Let's do this. It was already evening. As I whiled away the time with some fruitless contemplation, I heard noises outside that brought me back to reality. People were shouting loudly. Okay. This is starting much more intense than I was expecting.
Dosa!
I opened the window and shouted. It was facing the cliff, so I couldn't shout to the settlement directly. They probably didn't hear me, since I didn't get a response. So I shouted even louder. Huh? Was I about to get punched? I could only repeat myself. It was? I didn't get a reply this time. I only heard several voices clamoring. Then I heard someone hurry up the dorm stairs. I got no response again. What was happening here? Someone was definitely close. It just made me more tense.
Haruaki-san!
また知恵み落ちか。
何それ？悪いけど今じっとしてて。ひょっとしたらやばいかも。
Her voice was cut off by a scream. It was more like an intense cursing. It was Takumi-san's voice, no doubt about it. Chima left without saying another word.
ちょっと開けてよ。
Now, this is... Wait, It's evening, right? Yeah, it's still Wednesday. So it's still the second day. So... What's going on? I fought the door, but it showed no signs of opening.
何かあったなら僕も手を貸すってば。
Shit. Like hell I was gonna stay out of the loop any longer. Oh, you're in the loops. You're in the loop, buddy. And it's raging. Turning around, I went to the open window and decided to try jumping out. Though I was on the second floor, it wasn't too high of a drop. It'd make my legs a little numb, so what? I jumped out without any hesitation. I properly bent my knees, so I didn't hurt myself at all. Then I ran to the settlement where I'd heard the voices from. I quickly understood the cause of Takumi-san's shouting. They were cries of despair. The reason was somewhere downhill, along the way to the graveyard. It was a small grove of low trees with a carpet of leaf mold below. It would have been hard to see even if there was no mist. You could hear running water nearby. I couldn't see where it came from, but it was probably an irrigation channel for the paddy fields. There was a small crowd gathered. I peeked through a space between them. There were bodies. Plural. 2 of them. Oh no. One was of an old man and the other that of a child. Though their appearances were vastly different, each was in a similar state. They lay on the ground with their hands over their stomachs, utterly still and covered in blood. These... What? No. Oh, man. These were the corpses of the old man who cried wolf and Chikamochi Kamoshida. Okay, something's... This... It's still evening. Wolves don't get to kill right now, and they only get to kill one. What happened?
なぜ何があった。
臭いし、てめえ寮にいんじゃなかったのかよ。
さっきまでいました。
嘘つけ。てめえがやったんだろ。あ？
What are you talking about?
違いますよ。本当にさっきまで寮の部屋にいたんです。ちえみちゃんと話だってした。
うん、春明さんじゃないよ、匠兄ちゃん。
じゃあ誰がやったっつんだよ。
そんなことより手当ては。
無駄だ。触んじゃねえ。
手当てをすれば間に合うかもしれない。
血はすっかり全部抜けてやがる。腹かっさばかれて腹渡も出てやがる。どんな手当てすりゃ生き返るってんだ。言ってみやがれ。あ？
There was nothing I could say in response. There were 5 of us on the scene. Chemi Serizawa, Takumi Muro, me, as well as Yasunaga Oribe, who was vomiting on a nearby bush, and Rikako Uematsu, who was watching the remains from a distance. Most were proactive, and I could see why they were here, but Rikako Uematsu felt a bit out of place. But then, I remembered that we were already pretty short-handed.
I
mean, do we have to... I mean, technically speaking, I guess there could be someone who's breaking the rules, but you'd expect them to be taken by the corruption then, right? She pointed to the old guy's clothes. There were gatherings of fur all over his garment. A werewolf. If that was the culprit, then this was the work of the corruption. Okay. Is that what she was saying? So what? Was the old man... Did the old man kill Mochi? We know Mochi's innocent. The old man killed Mochi for some reason, and then the corruption took him? Was that what she was saying? No. It was completely different. Well, yeah, that's right. If it were the corruption, it'd be like the journalists or Yoshitsugu, where he was completely torn apart, right? Okay. This is completely different from how the others died. The fur proved little.
傷を見せてください。
So what, did someone plant that?
触るなっつってんだろ。
これは明らかにこれまでと違う。
知ったようなことを言うな。これまで何も分からずじまいだったくせに。
Oh boy.
そうやって見ることをやめてしまえば分かるものも分からなくなる。
I mean, I agree with Haruaki, but I'm biased.
白々しいんだよよそ者。
匠兄ちゃん落ち着いてよ。
I want to look at the wounds too, because I mean, how people have died is actually seems to be somewhat important, because there are corruption deaths. There's how Kanzo died, which might be indicative of how the wolves kill, and this seems completely different. So we need to get specifics
う
here.
るせえ。こいつが来てから全部おかしくなったんだ。こいつがいなけりゃ。
I felt like he was about to grab me. I could clearly see the intense emotion whirling in his eyes. I thought I could get him to trust me, but now it's back to square one.
どうしてだよ。
Yeah, this sucks. Oh man. I mean, I kind of understand why actually. Mochi felt like actually too powerful of an ally. Cuz he was smart. He was able to he was understanding things. I think he was probably a future target for the wolves, considering just how smart he was. But again, this doesn't match with what's supposed to happen.
どうして。
Yasunaga Oribe calmed down a bit and faced the remains of his dear friend. His voice was shaking. The expression on the corpse was eerily pale and emotionless. Even a look of agony was absent. It almost looked like he was smiling. Did his face muscles simply go limp?
これは汚れじゃない。
どうしてわかる。
どいてくれれば証明できる。
He glared at me with an immense hatred before letting me through.
きつい人は見ない方がいい。
I walked up to the old guy's corpse. He looked as distant as always, but the lack of blood flowing in his face simply made his appearance even more creepy. I avoided looking at it while I grabbed his back and rolled him onto it. With a wet sound, entrails spilled from the wound in his stomach.
なんてひどい。
みんな無理するな。匠さん、あなたは見てください。
Stomach was clearly... Oh... Okay. I mean... This is seeming so obvious that, you know, I'm sure everyone watching is already thinking it. With that brief description where their stomachs were said to be opened, I instantly thought of it, and I wanted to wait till we got more of it, but, I mean, who's the only person we've seen with a blade? It's Chiemi. Chiemi's the only person so far. Does she still have that on her? Oh, no. Don't like where this is going.
これは超自然的な天罰や何かじゃない。人間が道具を使って作った傷だ。そして凶器が見つからない以上、誰かが意図的に持ち去ったか隠したかしか考えられない。
それをやった誰かが休みずにいて、凶器もどこかに隠されてるってのか。
宴の開始から今に至るまでの流れを詳しく説明してください。
Okay, with several people here to tell me, I ended up with a decent grasp of how today's feast went. Kinosuke had suggested they choose who to kill by vote. The wolf guy and Chiemi ended up with the same amount of votes, resulting in a tiebreaker vote. Most ended up voting for the wolf guy, sentencing him to death. He said he wanted to oh, that's right, I forgot. I forgot that. Yes, he did, and Mochi did say he was gonna watch him. Oh... crap. Okay, he said he wanted to take care of some things, so he and Chikamochi Kamoshida went out while the rest stayed where they were.
本当にその二人以外は外に出なかったんですか？
間違いねえよ。一応は宴はまだ続いてた。ジジイと近持ちが出たのが特別だったんだ。
二人は戻ってくる予定だった。その後宴が再開される予定だった。どう
それはよその方にはちょっと。
Sorry about that, Haruaki. I cut you off there.
二人は戻ってくる予定だった。その後宴が再開される予定だった。どう続くはずだったんです？いいでしょう。しかし二人はずっと戻ってこなかった。どれくらい待ちました
？1時間は経ってなかったろ
う。その後遅いから心配だってことで僕らが探しに出て、ものの10分もしないうちに見つかりました。
Sorry. Just making sure of something. Okay. So, the culprit was one of those not present. Chemi, Takumi-san, Yasunaga-kun, and Rakako Uematsu. 5 in the hall. Satoshi, Kaori-san, Meiko, Haru-chan, and Tai-san simply couldn't be responsible.
数分で二人を殺害し、返り血などで汚れた服を着替え、再び戻って捜索しているふりをする。
I mean, that's the conclusion we get if we don't consider something crazy like there's another person here that isn't part of the group, or that one of the dead, I don't know, somehow faked it and is still around somehow. I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
不可能よ、そんなの。
捜索中、互いの姿は？
見ていません。
Ooh.
離れて探していましたから。
Rookie mistake. Shoulda stayed in pairs at least.
一旦お堂に戻りましょ
う。Yeah, that was a big mistake there, splitting up. Look, I'm no visual novel expert, but I have played a fair amount by this point. And it is, quite incredible how many bad situations could be avoided if you just if you're searching for someone or something, at least stick together in pairs. Don't. Well, okay. We'll deal with it. We then went to the hall. Kinosuke kept watch and confirmed that no one besides the victim and the search party had left the building. That limited the potential murderers to the search party and I. So yeah, that's why Takumi was so in our face about it. I asserted that I was still in the room when it all happened, and they believed me for now. Though Takumi-san continued to expect that I used some sort of trick to escape and commit the murders. Well, that was fair, considering everyone else was with them, but I knew I wasn't the culprit. That left only one possibility.
二人はお堂を出てすぐに死んだ。その後、誰かが凶器を持ち去った。
Right after they left?
結局、お前しか考えられねえってわけだ。
だから、私が部屋にいるの聞いたって言ってるじゃん。
The room was blocked, remember? They blocked him in his room.
そこについては、僕は無実を主張し続けます。である以上、僕は二人の死因は他にあると言うしかない。
さっきから慎重に殺人と言ってませんね。
気づいた？そう。今のところ自殺や病死、毒殺の後、死体損壊や凶器持ち去りが行われた可能性はある。
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Wow, he's really reaching for all the possibilities here. So they somehow could have died not by murder, and then someone else came and desecrated the corpses. Man, okay.
そんなことをして我々に何の得がある？それより芹沢時様が共犯だとなれば、話は極めて簡単ではないかね。
わかりませんが、僕にだって得はありませんよ。
どうだか。本当はお前たち、以前から知り合いだったんじゃないのか？
違いますけど。だったとしてどうだって言うんですか？
Hey Chemi, do you still have that knife? Just curious, you know? Could you show it to me? Does here's a question. Does Chemi know that Haruaki knows? No, she does, because she mentioned it. I know that we saw, I know that Haruaki saw it, but then she put it away, and then she mentioned it through the door. Yeah, so she knows Haruaki knows she has the knife, right? Yeah.
気味の悪い昔話を住人が信じているのをいいことに、化け物のふりをして殺人を楽しみに来た。なんてのはどうだ？
やめてください。言っていいことと悪いことがあるでしょう。
やめなさい、あんた方。
Yamawaki walked out of the hall. I could see Haru, Makishima, Meiko, and Kaori Oribe whip behind her. That made a total of 10 survivors. 9 if you excluded me, who hadn't participated in the feast.
誰が近持ちとおじいさんを殺しても、それは掟に反して行われたこと。
That's what I'm thinking.
神内様は必ず汚れをお与えになるわよ。
Well, then I guess it'll just take care of itself tonight. She put her hands together in prayer and faced the peak of Mount Shinai at the opposite side of Saranaga. Strangely enough, that was enough for everyone to fall silent. Rakako Uematsu joined in, and Meiko copied her. This was the settlement's way of solving things. They gave up on discourse and just left it in the hands of the higher power.
ばあちゃん、今日はどうする？
もう一人分の血は流れとる。おじいさんも死んでしもうたことじゃ。宴はしまいにして片しよう。
Man, I'm starting to get suspicious that this first run through that we're doing right now, are we gonna hang anyone? This definitely feels like, you know, a bad end sort of thing. You know, I feel like we're on that path, which, I mean, the game has told me several times now that, you know, you're gonna be restarting. That's why it's weird for me that we haven't had more choices yet. But this especially feels like, you know, we're headed towards destruction.
わかった。安永、手伝え。
僕が。
お前はおとなしくしてろ。
The situation was only getting worse. Yeah, no kidding. Man, that sucks. Oh. Man, I was looking forward to a good old-fashioned hanging. And then I don't even get that, you know? That's such a shame. Such a shame. Okay, soon after that, it was time to shelter, so everyone retreated to their houses. Takumi-san had entered my room and boarded my window completely shut. Wow, thanks for that.
てめえが犯人じゃないなら、完全に塞いでも何かが起きるはずだ。
What do you mean by that? His words were harsh, but there was a hint of composure. He might have actually believed that I wasn't the one who did it, or maybe he found peace in the idea that the mountain would punish the culprit. Or perhaps he just believed it was the work of something supernatural. Whatever the case, he was dwelling less and less on the matter. Was the wolf guy a wolf? I had no idea whether that was plausible. Assuming he wasn't, 2 of the remaining 9 were wolves. With Kinosuke being confirmed a human, Takumi-san being the snake, and Meiko being a monkey, there were a whole 6 suspects. Thanks to my advice, Chemi suggested the monkeys reveal themselves, and they turned out to be Chikamochi, Kamoshida, and Meiko. Though Mochi had just died, that was a heavy blow. Him being confirmed a non-wolf was one reason, but more than that, he was one of the few people here who actually talked to me without restraint. He was somewhat of an oddity compared to the rest of the people here, but I did find him to be a fun guy. I'd like to get back at whatever injustice had stolen his life. Clearing my head, I resumed thinking. Since she was acting suspicious today, Takumi-san would investigate Haru-chan. Tomorrow, we'd only have 5 suspects. That'd give them decent chances of picking out the 2 wolves. It seemed to me like it wouldn't be that hard to find the murderers, who would surely be shaken by what they had done. And then, the outed wolf, not wanting to die alone, would reveal their partner. That was the most optimistic way to look at it. From a pessimistic standpoint, though, the situation was absolutely terrible. 4 people had died today. In a normal Feast of the Yomi Purge, it had to be 1 per day, 1 per night. This was double that. If things hadn't gone so well in the forest, even Haru Makishima might have died, not to mention the dreadful state Kaori Oribe was in. I was told their relationship had gotten worse. Kaori-san was in no state to prepare food, so it was likely that no one had eaten anything today. The hunger would only worsen everyone's morale. It was best for them to prioritize getting a proper meal tomorrow. Even so, there was no guarantee we wouldn't get any more irregular deaths. For example, someone at their wits' end could attack a wolf suspect despite the threat of the corruption. If they ended up losing more humans while the number of wolves stayed the same, the humans would be done for either tomorrow or the day after. Escape. I'd been entertaining the idea ever since lunch. The path was ruined, and I'd have to travel through an undeveloped grove, but I hadn't run into anything supernatural there when I was searching for Haru-chan. Maybe I could get out as long as I watched where I was going? I also had Saranaga as another option. Everyone hated it, but that just made it less likely for me to be caught. Going down a misty rocky cliff was dangerous, but at least it was a one-way road. I just had to be careful I didn't get taken by the currents, and it was definitely better than just staying here and dying. However, perhaps even suggesting that was dangerous. According to Rikaku Uematsu, the effects of the corruption were limited to the ones who broke the laws, so you could escape them by killing yourself. However, if someone said they wanted to escape the village, the punishment would likely go to both the one attempting it, as well as the ones who allowed it. The escape would surely become a hell of an experience then. However, there was an optimistic view of the situation. Something was actually here. Something abnormal was here in Yasumizu, killing and menacing its people using abnormal methods. At the very least, Yoshitsugu Oribe, who went to face it, suffered a horrible death. The superstitions were baseless, and it was best to look at this situation from that angle. My plan of escape contradicted that. But then, how could I prepare for whatever was to come? The best I could think of was trying to familiarize myself with Fujiyoshi's superstitions. Perhaps I could find some sort of weak point or hint that could lead me to their identity.
夕霧立てば宴の支度
The action rhyme they did was obviously referring to the Feast of the Yomi Purge. I couldn't remember all the lyrics, but I felt like there was quite a lot of info there. Perhaps there were more hints for the feast in Yasumizu's culture and general area. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that song. Maybe write down the lyrics. Okay, thanks for the hint, Haruaki. I felt like I had to talk to Rikaku Uematsu. She was an adult who seemed more involved in Fujiyoshi's prayers and stuff than most. I needed to arm myself with more info by tomorrow morning. That, along with the proper progression of the feast, were my only ways to survive. About today's feast. They must have decided to hang the wolf guide because they just didn't care about him all that much, simple as that. Sure, it was important to get rid of participants who weren't cooperative. However, the fact that we'd lost 6 people, but they still hadn't gone beyond he or she is kinda shady, was pretty bad. Yesterday, they wouldn't have hung anyone for such a petty reason. Well, the problem was that they hadn't hung anyone at all so far. But then again, it wouldn't be a good thing to give the impression it was okay to kill people just for seeming shady. This place was regressing back to a feudal, superstitious mental state. If there was something that could stop them from sinking there, it would be an outsider like me. I sealed my resolve and waited for the night to pass.
おこんばんは。
I was so startled by the voice on the other side of the door that I momentarily screamed. What time was it? 7? It was too early for an attack and too late for a walk around.
どうしたんだ君は。もう寝てないと天罰が下るんじゃないのか。
いやー、多分あと1時間くらいは大丈夫だよ。昨日も8時くらいまでは起きてて何もなかったし。
Well, this music's kind of upbeat for the grim circumstances we find ourselves in.
正直毎日寝すぎでしてね。寝は足りてる一方でお腹が空いてどうにもこうにもね。
備蓄は。
香織さんがあんな状況だとみんなで分け合うべきかなって思って手をつけないことにした。みんな今日はお腹空かせてるしね。付き合おうかって思って。
Okay, that's all great. Why are you here, Chiemi? How upstanding.
春明さんは食べていいと思うよ。
昼のやつ？いや、やめとく。ところで何の用？
Yeah.
だから気を紛らわせるために。
Look, Chiemi. I mean, we both know what you have, right? Surely you know. Surely you could understand why I would be a bit uncomfortable with you strolling on up here, and for such a seemingly casual reason.
本当にそれだけ？
春明さん、私のこと疑ってる？
Well, for lack of a better suspect.
いや。
Ooh, okay, Haruaki with a definitive no.
なんで？
猿のことを言ったから。
Ah.
自分でちゃんと理解した上で。
True. Good, that's good thought, Haruaki, yeah. Because the monkey strategy is plainly beneficial to humans, that's right. We went through that whole song and dance during the feast about, you know, the different possibilities of what would happen if the monkeys were revealed. And the conclusion was pretty much that the wolves wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. Because if they tried to, they'd get caught out. So, the fact that Chiemi utilized the monkey strategy in the first place kinda clears her. Nice. Okay. Nice. Good one, Haruaki.
読み意味の宴は非常によくできたコミュニケーションゲームだ。
よくできたって？
コミュニケーション以外の方法でゲームに勝つことをほとんど封じてるって意味だけど、近持くんも言ってたよ。これに勝つには人も狼もコツというか独自のセオリーを要する。猿もその一つだ。何の役に立つか分かりづらいけど、実はいきなり容疑者を2名も減らせるわけだ。これは1日目から可能だから、猿は安全なリーダーになれる。モッチーとメイコには厳しそうだけど。
そうだね。自由人とお子様じゃな。
一方で狼はどちらかといえば受け身なセオリーになるんだと思う。怪しいだけでくくられる状況下ではあくまで怪しまれないことが重要になるわけだが、これは結構難しい。
Interesting. So, that sounds like you should always just use the monkey strategy immediately, you know?
そうだね。黙ってても雄弁でも怪しく見えるときは見えるし。
そうだね。ただごく初期の段階でも信用と不信を分ける2つの要素がある。
それが猿のことに関係するの？
ああ、要は間違った誘導をすることと有用な提言をしないことだ。
Man, I feel like I'm not gonna be good at this. Like watching for people who give bad advice or don't provide useful suggestions.
間違った誘導については、例えば間違った計算でみんなを煙に巻いた清之助氏あたりは結構怪しい。
True, but then we had the whole snake thing.
でも彼は人確定でしょ。
Yeah. It's you don't know if they're purposely giving bad advice or if they're just, you know, giving bad advice.
その通り。まあ匠さんがヘビってのが嘘じゃないって仮定の上の話だけど。
Yeah, this was a thought. I mean, here's a crazy scenario, right? Journalists got killed like day one. Okay? I mean, here's a question I have. Were the journalists part of the game technically? Is Haruaki part of the game technically? Maybe not, since he's allowed to be apart from the feast. Like, presumably you have to attend the feast or the corruption will get you, right? Or is that how it works? Oh, dang it, so many rules. Anyway, the thought is, what if one of the journalists was actually the snake, and then Takumi was lying from the beginning? You know, it could be something like that. Like, it'd be really weird to have a scenario where it's like a Takumi and Kinosuke are the wolves. Yeah, I don't know how likely that is, but I'm seeing what he's saying.
嘘だって可能性あるの？
ゼロじゃないさ。だって加護を受けたかどうかなんて
Yep.
口ではいくらでも言える。というか、例えば僕が狼なら何人か殺した後で適当な加護者を名乗って安全な座席を確保するね。
Because hopefully among the one you've killed at least one that has a guardian.
なるほど。でも匠兄ちゃんは初日にいきなり名乗ったよ。
そうなんだよな。自殺行為に近いけど、結果雲に守られることを考えれば痛みを伴う有効打だったのかな。
Don't seem very sure.
ともかく確かにそうなると匠さんと清之助氏は信頼していいと思う。
I mean, that's where I'd lean for as well. I mean, I was just giving a hypothetical, but
さらに僕の中では
okay.
猿の使い方についてちゃんと
I
発信
like
した。
that.
君もね。
Thank you, Haruaki. That makes me feel better. So, currently we have Meiko, Kinosuke, Takumi, and Chiemi are our trustworthy people, right? Takumi's gonna be searching Haru. Okay.
春明さんのその意図を見抜いて黙ってるのを諦めたのかもよ。
おお、それは困るな。
ということは猿のことを教えてくれた時点ではちえみのこと疑ってたってことですよな。
あ、気づいた。
なんつう男、好感度だ。
He just says it. He's a man who speaks his mind. Yeah, so okay, Chiemi said, what if I just did it? I think that'd be too risky, because we already talked about the wolves basically don't have any recourse against the monkey strategy, so even if she's doing it, it feels too much like 4D chess that she would give away the monkey strategy just to gain Haruaki's trust. Is that what she was saying? That would be like a 4D chess move sort of thing, you know?
信じたかったから鎌かけたんだよ。
Yeah, I'd rather just believe in her.
回復。
Woohoo.
ということは一番怪しいのは誰？
はるちゃん。
やっぱりか。
Yeah, she comes across as either... I could believe either a wolf or someone who's being manipulated by a wolf.
さすがにちょっと説明になってないし、2日目で態度が変わった理由も実の祖父を殺したからで説明できる。
She definitely saw something, that's for dang sure.
あるいは他の狼の肝臓師を殺す決定に同意できず誰も信用できなくなったとかね。
It's so strange to me that the idea that the wolves are like a team and they're having their own, meetings and planning on what to do. I wonder if that's really truly the case or what.
あ、確かにありそう。
You could make up 1,000 reasons like this, though. We couldn't go by just by that. They'd said Haru hadn't gathered many votes, but they treated her like some kind of pariah, making it clear that everyone suspected her. It was only natural to use the snake to check on her.
まあ彼女はそんなにゲームとか得意じゃなさそうだから有用な提言をしないの原則で判断するのはかわいそうだけど。
Part of the issue, though, is Haru seems someone who's maybe kind of easily manipulated. She has strong emotions, and I could see her getting manipulated, just being swayed to do something or other. It's unfortunate to say this, but she feels unreliable. Which is a shame, but it makes sense. I mean, she's a kid. She's been thrust into this crazy, horrible situation. So, I'm not holding that against her too much. It's just unfortunate that in this case, it's not just unhelpful. It's downright deadly.
それで言うなら安永君の方がもっと怪しい。
Here we go. Back to this again.
でもヤスくんいっぱいいろいろ言ったよ。日数計算が間違ってることとか。それに今春明さんが言ったようなことも言ってた。何もしないのが間接的に狼を利しているだっけ。それに初日雲が隠れてた方がいいってことも。
そうなんだよね。
I mean, Haruaki just said, the wolves, if they give bad advice or no advice, that makes them suspicious. So, what would a good wolf do? A good wolf would actually try to make moves that seem like they're helping, right? But most of those things were minor. He was definitely contributing to the game. The first day was especially important. For the wolves, it was best to create a flow where they could just stay quiet and wait for those guardians to out themselves. What bothered me was the fact that he wasn't the one who brought up the leader selection and the monkey thing. He was shady because he hadn't made those useful propositions. I see what he's saying. So the fact that it had to be Chiemi that brought up the monkey strategy, and Yasunaga didn't bring it up himself either because he couldn't see it himself, but that would be strange because he's obviously intelligent, so yeah. I thought he'd figured out those things a while ago, or maybe I, as an outsider, just had a better grasp of the situation.
となると彼はやっぱり白かな。あとはわからないね。上松里香子さんやタエさんは何考えてるかわからないし。
Okay, so he's easing up on Yasunaga a bit.
そうだね。
Rikako voted for Yasunaga, Tai voted for Chiemi. Okay. But if you looked at the circumstances outside the feast, Rikako Uematsu was pretty shady. It always felt like she was hinting at something. It wouldn't have surprised me if she knew more than she let on. What I'm thinking, with regard to Rikako, is she's apologized to Haruaki twice now, I think. At least twice. I'm wondering if... She obviously knows more than she lets on. She's obviously very in tune with all the various traditions and such of the village. I'm wondering if she knows about the whole loop. The titular loop. The raging loop. I'm wondering if she knows about that. And maybe she had something to do with trapping Haruaki in it in some way. We'll need to see more of... We'll need to loop more, I think, to get a handle on it. Because that's still kind of a vague concept. We've only technically looped once so far. Yeah, because at least canonically, Haruaki's only died once thus far. Yeah, because the one time we ran away from the village, that didn't get us a key or anything. So that was just kind of a dead end. Okay. If she was a village head, she could know things only those from Kami Fujiyoshi knew. There was more than enough reason to suspect her. If only we could follow that lead and solve this whole thing, it'd make things way easier.
春明さんさ、現状を楽しんでない？
ないよ。
Yeah, I mean, I can watch this from the safety of, not being in the middle of a murder game. He's in the middle of it. Yeah.
でもこういうミステリーみたいなのって好きそう。
Difference between reading one and being in one.
それは否定しないけど、さすがに自分や大事な人の命がかかっている時に楽しむ気分にはなれないな。それこそ探偵を気取ってみても素人には何も分かりはしない。無力感だけさ。
あんまりそうは見えないな。
なぜこんなに疑われているのだろ
う。他のみんなボロボロだよ。普通の人はああやって平常心を失っていくもんだと思う。
それは君についても言えるんじゃない？
私も普通じゃないですし。
Yeah, we heard something from Yasunaga that you almost killed a person one time?
そういえば、人を殺しかけたとか聞いたけど。
Yeah, that.
誰かな、バラしたのは。
それは秘密。まあ、そんなに悪意のある感じには聞こえなかったけど。
まあ、なんと言いますか。中学の時かな。安水の子らをいじめてた分校の上級生らをバットでボッコボッコ。
うわ。
その中に長者の筋のやつもいたから大騒ぎになっちゃってね。まあそれで年が上の人たちは私に厳しいんだ。
なるほど。正義の武闘派ってわけだ。
So, she was sent to Yasumizu for making enemies out of the village heads.
いやまあ単に血の気が多くて問題を起こしたかっただけですよ。
反抗期？
そんな感じ。はるちゃんやよしくんと同じよ。こんな田舎だとやすくんみたいにまっすぐ育つ方が珍しいんじゃない？
そうかな。ひねた都会よりも健全で素直な子に育ちそうだけど。
言い直す。こんなに貧しいとだわ。
Well, there was no doubt that Yasumizu was destitute. There were no cars, cell phones, and it didn't even feel like it had an economy. They probably lived mostly off the land, making money from whatever they could spare from their farms and hunts. Since they had no decent way to sell off stuff to anyone outside, most of their business had to be done through Kami Fujiyoshi. It was entirely likely they were ripping them off. No way this place could be wealthy in these circumstances. I didn't believe that money could buy everything, but poverty took its toll on the people suffering from it. Some could live in poverty while retaining their purity, but that was borderline saintly. It was a lifestyle too difficult for the common masses. Also, since the people from Yasumizu were ostracized from Kami Fujiyoshi, they were targets of unjust pressure from day one. I could understand why the children here strayed from the path. Though, when you look at it that way, the way they strayed was so mild it was almost cute.
今度こそ引いた？
いや、別に。
嘘だ。いざとなったらドンキ持ち出すような女、内心ドン引きでしょ？ドンキだけに。
I'm just gonna ignore that poor attempt at a pun. Sorry. I guess so. Maybe it's a better pun in Japanese. Yeah, I mean, at least in this, it is definitely a poor attempt. So maybe it is just as bad.
前の彼女もそんなだったし。
Ooh, Haruaki lore. Tell me more.
お、へえ、そうなんだ。
なぜか動揺されてしまった。
彼女さんと別れたって実は
嘘だと思われてたのか。
正直ナンパの口実かと。
ひってそれはもう身の危険を感じるレベルの大喧嘩を経て破局しましたよ。
Oof.
うはー、それはご愁傷様。
君の方は？男性遍歴。僕は言ったんだから君も言うべきじゃない？
まあその
実際に付き合ったのは何人なんですか
2人かな。
ちえねえはモテモテで53人切りの超絶ビッチだって話はどこへ行った？
そこまで言ってない。多少持ったのは認めるが、実際大学で各種お誘いはいっぱいもらってますけども。
なのに二人ぽっちなんだ。付き合っ
まああんまり会う人っていなくてさ。
僕は
これ以上やめとこうよ。期待したら死ぬのが怖くなる。
死ぬのが怖いのは当然じゃない？
別に
どうして？
死ぬより神様の方が怖い。
君の言う神様は一般にイメージするそれと違うよね。
どこが？
それは何やら恐ろしいもので実際に会えるものなんだろ
みんな神様には会ってるよ。見えていないのかもしれないけど。それに神様は怖いよ。みんな怖さを知らないだけ。
僕も見えてない、知らないだけ。
あなただけはわからない。だから私は失うのは怖いかもしれない。
Oh. Her eyes.
そんな言葉、永遠の愛を誓った相手にでも言えばいい。
怒った？
ちょっとね。
そっか。
この段になっても思わせぶりなだけで何の手の内も開示しないのは火遊びが過ぎるんじゃないの？
私もどうすればいいのかわからないし迷ってるんだよ。
全部話してみればいい。
もう帰るね。
ちえみ、
おやすみ。
What the hell? Why didn't she talk? Did she still not trust me? Was she messing with me? Was she just kind of crazy? Or was it something else? Crap. I wanted to chase her down and get a real answer out of her, but I was locked in. This was so frustrating. Though, this wasn't the time to worry about that. Who would the wolves go for tonight? The wolf guy was dead, meaning there was one less person who'd vote Chemi out tomorrow. It wasn't likely she'd get the top vote. It was best to think that the wolves would go for someone who was useful to the humans and couldn't be killed with the votes. That meant that she and Yasunaga-kun were the ones at the highest risk. On the other hand, their survival would make things difficult in other ways. I'd probably be forced to consider the possibility that they themselves were wolves. Could I really trust Chiemi? I felt I could, but not completely. Whatever the case, a situation where the more talkative ones were seen as suspicious would make it harder for her to survive. Should I have talked to her about running away? No, that was probably pointless. I didn't know much about her whole God thing, but it was clear that escape wasn't even an option for her. Something scary that everyone had met, yet not fully perceivable. Was she speaking figuratively? Or could she literally see something?
くそ、知るか。
I became irritated. My hunger was starting to get to me. Figuring it was better than just wasting my mental energy, I focused on taking a bath and going to bed. Oh no. I had no idea just how naive my predictions would prove to be. Oh man, well, I think on that ominous note is where I shall leave you all. Wow. This game's such a roller coaster at times, it feels like. I think I named one of the episodes, like, one disaster leads to another, and that's my sense of it. That's how it feels. It's just one thing after another. And I have no doubt, especially from what Haruaki just said there, that we're going to get another one fairly soon. But yeah, a lot to think about, man. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back over that prayer nursery rhyme thing that Chiemi and Haru sang. I'll just have to write that down. I think I'll just probably write the whole thing down. Yeah, okay. We'll regroup and we'll go through all that, and I'll probably recap what happened here as well. Well, pour one out for my boy Mochi, you know. He was a good one. Sad to see him go. But as Haruaki said, we gotta figure this out for him, for everyone really, but especially those who've been lost. I've been the Worm. This has been Raging Loop, which shall continue to rage, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.